There is a rising tide by parents against what they see in the government schools. People attending school board meetings and finding out that they have very little power over their children's curricula. Realizing that they have to pay more attention to whom they are electing to local boards, such as their school boards. What parents and the general population do not realize is that the problems in the government schools is not new. They've been growing steadily for decades, even longer. Let us make a point right up front that should settle the argument over government schools immediately. Almost everyone knows that private enterprise does a better job than the government in running everything. So why have we allowed the public school system to get where it is today? It's as if it's a sacred cow in most people's minds, and to criticize the public school system is almost blasphemy. That is until recently. Heaven forbid that the whole idea of government-run schools come into question. Yet I found what I learned in school in the 1940s and 1950s contained a great deal of false information. I did not learn otherwise until after I got out into the real world and found out things for myself. For instance, our whole system of government is based on the fact that we get our rights from God. Our Declaration of Independence states so, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled that we cannot proclaim God in the schools, have verses from the Bible, or pray in class. If God is excluded from the classroom, how can we possibly teach our children that our rights come from God? You can't. Therefore, the entire foundation of American government cannot be taught, nor can God-based morality be taught. This is something that has been obvious to the Marxists since the founding of our country. Since the Declaration of Independence declares that we are now independent not only from Britain but the entire world, this comes in conflict with the Marxist idea of a one-world government. This is why the spirit of the Declaration of Independence has been taught less and less in the classroom with each passing decade. This also reflects on the teaching of the Bill of Rights. The very first right delineated in the Bill of Rights is that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Erasing these important fundamental principles has been part of the Marxist conspiracy since day one. For instance, in the mid-1800s, Horace Mann worked to create a statewide system based on the Prussian model of education. This style of teaching attracted wide middle-class support. Historian Elwood P. Cumberly stated, "No one did more than he to establish in the minds of the American people the conception that education should be universal, non-sectarian, free, and that its aims should be social efficiency, civic virtue, and character, rather than mere learning or the advancement of sectarian ends." If religion cannot be involved, how can the fundamental principles on which this country was founded even be taught? I was taught in school that there's no difference between a republic and a democracy. It's only a matter of which word you wish to use. Yet we know there's a real difference, one between liberty and tyranny. You will not find the word democracy in the Constitution or in any of the 50 state constitutions. In fact, the federal Constitution mandates that every state have a republican form of government. In other words, a republic. A republic is the rule of law, a limitation on what government can do, and a stable form of government. A democracy is majority rule. The communists have always advocated democracy because they know they can change it into a communist government by manipulating the majority, especially if they control the schools, the media, etc. John Adams, our second president, said this, quote, "Democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide, unquote. Democracies have always been used by the majority to subjugate the minorities, as witnessed in Nazi Germany, Rwanda, the Middle East, etc. Jan Kosak, a high communist official in Czechoslovakia, wrote a paper wherein he explained how they were able to take over the country by moving the country from what it was into democracy first and then manipulating them into communism after World War II. The communist Marxist agenda has been to destroy the United States Republic from the inside out. It's time to get back to educating our youth about the fundamental principles and reject the Common Core critical race theory teachings that are taking place today. It's time to get your children out of the government schools and search out the schools that are teaching the content that needs to be taught. They're out there. Of course, we always recommend Freedom Project Academy, which is a homeschool program. The 2021 live class enrollment has ended, but anytime classes for grades 6 through 10 are still available through January 2022. If you are not already enrolled, do so today. Save not only your children from the indoctrination going on today, but in the process, it will help save our country by the education of children who will grow up to be solid citizens of our country.